you was El Chapo before Chapo.
No, I wouldn't say all
Yeah,
that. I wouldn't say that.
You weren't moving no weight like that.
Nah, but I was moving some weight for since a kid, but
Right.
but I wasn't on no El Chapo list.
Did it ever dawn on you?
But I got some crazy stories about I remember one time I was dealing with a connect, and this is gonna sound horrible, but I put my mom up for collateral.
What?
Yeah, I was getting I was getting a bunch of keys, and they was like, well, you guys show me where your mom live at, because if you run off on this, we can't afford you to run off.
Right.
And I was like, I ain't had no intentions of running off.
Right.
So I was like, I'll show you.
Hi, beautiful ladies. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you about why men marry women that they dislike, with hopes that it will give you some warning signs. It'll alert you on what to look out for so that you don't find yourself in this predicament. I'll be referring to Meagan Good and Yandy Smith in this video as examples. So just a little bit of background on both. Meagan Good, as you know, is an actress, very, very beautiful woman. In my opinion, she's like one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. Like, she has the beauty standard that society values in a woman in general, like regardless of your race. So Meagan was previously married to Pastor Devon Franklin in 2012, and they got divorced in June 2022. And she then met Jonathan Majors shortly after in October 2022, started dating in May 2023, and they were recently married earlier this month in March 2025. So Yandy Smith, she is a personality from Love and Hip Hop New York. She's an actress, producer, entrepreneur, and entertainment manager. So she started dating Mendeecees in the mid-2000s, and they were dating for 6 years on and off. So in total, they've been dating for over 10 years. They had their first child in 2012. They got engaged in 2014, had their second child in 2015, and then finally got married in 2020 when Mendeecees was released from prison. And through this entire time, Mendeecees had a child with another woman, and Yandy kind of played stepmama to this child when Mendeecees was in prison. And that's not uncommon, I guess, for women who choose to date men who have children. But it kind of, just as an aside, one thing that was kind of odd to me was it kind of seemed as if Yandy was more so in Mendeecees' son's life, more so than the child's biological mother, because in the show, it seemed as if Yandy was taking care of him. Like, it seemed as if he was around Yandy more so than the mother. Like, I think he lived with Yandy and Yandy's children at some point. So I don't know what's going on with that situation with the mom, but Yandy very willingly played mother to another man's child. I believe they weren't even able to be married until 2020, despite getting engaged in 2014. So they were engaged for 6 years because of legal battles. Yeah, Yandy thought that this was a suitable partner to be with. So Jonathan Majors, he's an actor, as you know. He previously was in a relationship with a woman named Grace Jabari. And in March of 2023, Jonathan was arrested on charges of A-wording his ex-girlfriend. And then charges were filed that same month. Jonathan accused Grace of making false allegations. In April of 2023, the court issued a restraining order against him, and his legal issues kind of just ensued until this day. And so if you notice that the charges were filed in March 2023, and then it's believed that Jonathan and Meagan started officially dating in May 2023. And this was a very public incident that occurred. There was video footage of what happened. Like, it was all over the news, all over the tabloids. I think this also broke after or at around the same time as the Marvel movie that he acted in came out. So everyone knew Jonathan Majors' name, and not because of the movie, but because of this scandal, which means that Meagan Good obviously knew, but she still chose to pursue a relationship with someone like that. And Mendeecees Harris he was in the real estate business apparently, and then he kind of shifted his focus to music, and he apparently became a manager for some aspiring rappers. But then in 2015, he was sentenced to 8 to 10 years behind bars for drug trafficking. So, I mean, with both of these guys already, they are not suitable partners. So a man who has a history of criminal activity, I don't know why that, even if that happened after Yandy got with him and she had no idea, like she should have broken things off the moment she caught wind. But not only did she stick around, but she raised his child that he had with another woman. And then Megan got with a man who also had legal troubles, and those legal issues are still going on. I don't know if the charges have been dropped, but a man who has a history not only of having legal issues, but he has legal issues because he put his hands on another woman, which is ridiculous to me. So already you can tell the pathology of both of these women. And I'll link another video above where I speak about why Black women are attracted to losers. But another thing that these men have in common, these men also both do not like their women. Jonathan Majors does not like Megan Good. As a matter of fact, I don't think that he likes any woman, because you cannot be a man who's romantically attracted to women and still put your hands on women. And Mendeecees doesn't like Yandy because he has cheated on her multiple times. And he said in so many words, which I'll show later on, that he wasn't really feeling Yandy the way that she felt him, and that she kind of goes too hard.
Be too independent. And Rashida was talking to me how it got to a point in her relationship with Kirk where she was trying to just do everything and be all that she needed to be for everything else, but not for her relationship. And she said they went through a very dark place, and I just don't want that for us.
Man, listen, I don't know what to say, man. I feel that we are in a dark place. It's been going on for a while now. If this is going to be, then, you got to take this serious. If it's not, then you got to let it go.
Do you feel you guys are at the point where you may let go?
Yeah,
Is the commitment keeping you more than the love right now?
absolutely, 1000%. This is supposed to be forever, but it don't have to be forever.
Well, I feel like letting it go is not an option. The thought of life without you, that's not an option for me. I'm just devastated at how he feels. It seems like he's hopeless.
Nothing has ever made him say or consider us being apart. I didn't think it was this bad.
I'm just worried at this point.
When you get back, there's things we got to work on, So, you got to be willing to put the work in. So, I'm not a big communicator, but I be trying. God knows I be trying.
Okay. All right, I love you.
I love you too.
Give my babies a kiss, please.
All right.
All right, bye.
And if you do love and like, at the very least, the person that you're in a relationship with, the very least that you're expecting from them is for them to show some form of interest in you. If you are put off by your partner showing love and affection to you, it's because you don't actually like that person. But these men are in relationships with both of these women because of what they can do for them. And a lot of men find themselves in relationships like this where even though they don't like the woman and they would probably much rather be with somebody else if they had the opportunity to, they stick with these women, or sometimes they even pursue this woman. So you'll think like, oh, he's the one who pursued the relationship, he proposed, whatever. He's doing that because he knows that he can get something from this person, and he's only with that person for personal gain. A lot of women find themselves in these situations because of community and religious expectations. So there's this expectation that you must be married, for example, by a certain age, or you have to marry a woman if she gets pregnant before marriage. So it's kind of like, oh, you got her pregnant. Now you guys must seal the deal and be stuck together forever legally, because you're going to be stuck together forever with this child. And the whole notion of, children being born outside of wedlock being illegitimate. So in order not to look bad culturally and religiously, you need to only have a child with the person that you're married with. So now you are obligated to get married. And also, let's face it, especially in a lot of religious settings, you are required to be married before you have sex with a person. So a lot of times he will kind of marry the first thing that catches his eye, even if he doesn't like her, because then that means that he can now legally, in the eyes of said religious institution, have relations with this woman, even though a lot of men do not follow those principles, and a lot of men are active even before they get married. They're known to be neighborhood gigolos because they spread their seed far and wide, but they do so privately and covertly so no one knows. A lot of times they also keep their side chicks and relationships with the women that they actually want to be with. And a lot of times it's the 304s, quote unquote, that they like to condemn, but everyone knows that they like the way that 304s carry themselves, the way that they look, and so they keep the 304s on the side and take the 304s out on dates, buy her things, treat her like a girlfriend, and then the wife kind of just gets nothing. All she gets is the honor of carrying his name, essentially. But a lot of men also get in relationships with women that they don't like for financial and social gain. And so marriage was historically practiced for financial gain, especially for men in earlier societies who needed to preserve or build their family's wealth and social standing. They would marry women with more finances or social capital than them in order to achieve their goal. They typically look to another woman, primarily from their own community, to be the cleanup woman to boost their image and appear innocent as a way to counter the negative image that was painted on them previously. So and this isn't specifically for Black women, they'll kind of appeal to the whole downtrodden Black male, where the evil white woman is out there to tarnish your name, and she just lied about the situation, and he's innocent. And Jonathan Majors, there's so many examples of this, but Jonathan Majors did this. We saw this with OJ, where he did what he did, and everyone believed him. He pretty much was found not guilty because his lawyer very strategically used that method to try to paint him as the victim when everyone knows that he did what he did to Nicole Brown Simpson. And now you see this with Jonathan Majors, where he was with a white woman. He has a child with her, by the way. There is video evidence of him doing what she said he did. And there's even an audio clip of him indirectly admitting to doing what he did. And so now that, his image is tarnished, apparently back in 2023, they were saying that Marvel dropped him and he lost all these deals. Now that he looks like what the white community has often warned a lot of white women and said, hey, don't date Black men particularly because this is what happens with athletes and whatever, he can't really go to another woman in her community or any other community that's not Black to help him sort of rebound. So I don't know if maybe his manager or his publicist maybe told him, hey, like his agent or whatever told him, try to find yourself in a healthy relationship with a woman to counter these claims and this image that this woman put out, even though they're true. So someone told him, or he came up with the idea of find a Black woman to be the cleanup woman, because we know that Black women will do anything for the Black community's approval, including being with Black men who have a history of being violent. Black women are usually the cleanup women because other races of women are more likely to leave at the first sign of disrespect, and rightfully so, and they won't attach themselves to a damaged man unless they stand to benefit from that arrangement. So even if he wanted to date another non-Black woman, he probably wouldn't be successful in that quest unless he had something to gain. So if you notice with Kanye dated Kim Kardashian and kind of was ruined by that relationship for multiple reasons. And even though he's a billionaire and he has lots of money, the only way that he stood to get into a romantic relationship with a woman was if she stood to gain something from that partnership at the expense of her own image and probably mental health. And we saw that, as I previously mentioned in another video, with Bianca Censori. Let's just be honest, she's only there to reap the benefits, the financial benefits of being with him. And so Jonathan Majors, obviously, he's not as big of an actor or entertainer as Megan Good. So his options are limited. And so he had to form this hypergamous relationship where he's standing to gain, because Megan stands to gain absolutely nothing from being with Jonathan and is actually taxing herself by being with a man who's socially bankrupt. And we've already seen the backlash that Megan has gotten for being with Jonathan. Like, people have said, girl, like, you look sickly. There's photos of her where she just looked just very frail and not good ever since being with Jonathan. The type of like movies that she's being casted in are very like D-list, like they're not big box productions. People don't want to deal with women who don't know their worth, because it's like, if you don't know your worth, then that means that you're going to bring low vibrational energy to my work. And in Yandy's case, Mendeecees obviously stuck around with Yandy, despite him pretty much insinuating that Yandy is not the woman that he wants to be with. He obviously stuck around with her because she was willing to help with his legal issues, kind of keep everything going while he was behind bars. And she also was willing to be in his child's life. I don't know, again, what's going on with the mom, but it seems like at one point she was the caregiver of that child. And having the emotional support, like, I guess when you're behind bars, it's apparently very trying, even though you could have avoided that by, I don't know, not breaking the law. But I guess when you're behind bars, it's emotionally taxing. And so having that emotional support from a mammy is better than having no support. And he also doesn't have to worry about reintegration, because a lot of people who serve time, they have issues reintegrating back into society, even though, you know, they're given support like by going to a halfway house first. But it's like, okay, now I have to worry about where am I going to live? How am I going to get a job? Whatever. And it's like, if you have a woman who is dedicating to holding it down, so to speak, you don't have to worry about where to live and finances and things like that, because clearly she's willing to provide that. Men also marry women that they don't like for a desire to humble that woman. And when I say humble that woman, it's like, yes, even though they're taking out their frustrations and their disdain out on that woman in particular, it's almost that woman serves as a symbol for all women. A sign of that is if he has a track record of being abusive to multiple women, and that's evident in Jonathan Major's case. And the problem is that pick-me's like Megan Good think that they're going to get different treatment for whatever reason. Maybe they think I'm prettier, or I just understand him as a Black woman. You know, he came home to roost because the Black woman understands exactly what he needs, without realizing that, okay, even though he put his hands on a non-Black woman, she is still a woman. She is still the same as you. You both share a gender. And so if he has it in him to harm one woman, he will do it to another woman. And he will most often do it to the pick-me, because even though these misogynists, these men who hate women, still find themselves in quote unquote romantic relationships with women, deep down inside, they hate and despise women. And they specifically hate and despise pick-me's, because a pick-me represents what he could get and not what he actually wants. So if it hasn't happened already, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear down the road of things happening between Megan and Jonathan. I hope not. I'm not wishing that on her. But I mean, he already has a track record of doing it. So they get in relationships with women, especially the pick-me or the easy target, the low-hanging fruit, in order to humble her and sort of signal to other women and men who are in similar situations that women ought to be humbled and not expect much. And furthermore, him getting with Megan and choosing a Black woman, I know some Black women would be like, oh, well, he chose us, and think that it's a badge of honor. It's not, because even though Megan, again, is an extremely beautiful exotical, she's still a woman, and a Black woman at that. And we know how high the DV rate is for Black women who are in relationships with Black men. and especially Black men who have a record of putting their hands on women. So another reason why men marry women who they don't like is because they obviously can't attain success on their own, and because they can't access the women that they really want to be with, they go for the low-hanging fruit that they know will provide them with what they need. So for a lot of men, it's a place to stay, it's financial security, it's getting legacy through a child. But in the case of Yandy and Megan, it was for a mixture of that, plus the ability, specifically for Megan and Jonathan Majors, the ability to help, number one, clean up Jonathan's image, and number two, by extension, hopefully, he is hoping, I guess, to appeal to the masses so that people will forget what he did and then continue to be booked for acting gigs. And so men like this, they specifically go after women who they don't like so that they can siphon their image to get ahead, just like what Kanye did with the women that he dates. And Megan obviously doesn't recognize her worth and the potential that lies within her privilege, but a soul sucker like Jonathan will and does. So he specifically chose a woman like Megan to get what he wanted. Megan is the total package, as I mentioned before. She has pretty privilege, even though, in my opinion, she doesn't use it. She's conventionally attractive in general. She's fit, symmetrical face, photogenic, clear skin, sex appeal, style, class, etc. And because she has all of these things, obviously there are benefits that come with that. And as a man, the benefit of being with a woman like that is you get notoriety, you get clout, paired with the fact that she has arguably a much larger network than he does. Having her on the red carpet with him, having her at appearances with him, number one, kind of signifies like, oh, he's kind of moved on. You know, he was able to move on from that dark past with his former girlfriend. Now he's moved on and he's married to a beautiful, successful woman. And, you know, if she can trust him, we should be able to trust him too. And then by extension, obviously there is some exchange and some expectation that Jonathan's expecting her to bring her around those people. Like when you saw like the video of Michael Ealy like climbing all over Megan and hugging her and just the chemistry, honestly, that we saw between them, that was probably because Megan brought Jonathan around her people and not the other way around. Like, we all know of Megan Good. We've known about Megan Good for probably decades now, at least 2 decades. Jonathan Majors only recently came on the scene in terms of mainstream. Maybe he's acted before, but like he's not as mainstream as Megan. So he relies on Megan's network for him to rebuild his image and be able to book gigs. Like, make no mistake, that is the only reason why he's with Megan. And it's not because she's not a good woman or a desirable partner to be with. Any man, in my opinion, would be lucky to be with Megan. I just wish that she knew that. But he is with her for the sole purpose that she has low self-esteem, and he's using that to his advantage. I really don't know why she would go from ending a marriage with a pastor who cared deeply for her, it seemed. Like, only she knows why that marriage ended, and, you know, she has the right to walk away from whatsoever doesn't serve her. But, like, why go from that seemingly stability to a man who literally tanked his career and his image, and you're not even getting anything in return? It's not like, you know, she got with Kanye West, who is obviously a train wreck right now, but like he's also a billionaire. So she stands to gain from him financially, especially if he doesn't require a prenup. She stands to gain access to his network at the very least, if she doesn't even get a dime out of him. So, but Jonathan has none of that. I don't even know if Jonathan's a millionaire. She probably has a higher net worth than him. I don't know. So I say all this to say, you know, if you're someone like Megan and Yandy, you really have no business in being in a relationship in the first place, because you're gonna go for relationships and operate from a place of need rather than you making an informed decision on who you want to be with. And so you'll kind of go for whoever goes for you type of thing. It honestly seems as if this is what Megan and Yandy, very, very clearly, Yandy is with Mendeecees because she probably thinks that she can't do any better. And probably to some extent Megan as well. Do not get into any relationship like this because it's not going to work for you, and you will end up feeling burnt out and used. To some extension, for a lot of women, end up facing what Jonathan Majors' ex faced with him. So just as an FYI. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this one down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.